Well, so thank you to, all the students that were brave enough to introduce yourself in this call and participate in the virtual networking. That was fantastic. And for those that just joined us, a very warm welcome to our April 2024 session of the Spencer webinar series. If you're not familiar with Spencer, we are a nonprofit organization that supports the future leaders of this industry, which is all of you that are here with us on this call today, and more specifically, college students that are pursuing careers within risk management, insurance, actuarial science. We support students and universities through various programs, such as our scholarships programs and various grants to universities that support what we call experiential learning opportunities. And of course, we do also have our annual International Risk Management Challenge. And we do have two amazing guest speakers that are here with us today from Markel. We've got Alina Goikman, who is an umbrella and excess casualty underwriter at Markel. And we do also have Lily van Elderen, programs underwriter at Markel. So thank you both for being here today. And with that, Alina, I will hand it over to you.
Awesome. Thanks, Tandeka. It's nice to virtually meet all of you. Lily and I, we're both Spencer scholars as well. So we're an extended part of your community. So feel free to, find us on LinkedIn, connect with us after the session if you have any questions or if we can support you in any way that we can. We kind of have an outline of what the conversation is going to look like today. That being said, we want it to be a conversation. So if you have any questions or comments, feel free to unmute yourself or write something in the chat. But the topic that we thought would be engaging and interesting for all of you is Gen Z in the workplace. And so we're going to kind of dive in and dissect that topic. And if you have, again, any comments or questions, please feel free to share. I think we'll start with just kind of a brief background and introduction of who we are and where we studied and what we studied. So I graduated St. John's University. My major was first actuarial science, and then I ended up switching into our quantitative risk and insurance program. I graduated in 2022, so roughly 2 years ago. I think now I feel more like a working adult than I do a student, but it's still, a transition from being a student to going into the workplace. I was a Spencer Scholar 2 years, my junior and senior year at St. John's University, and I can, say that Spencer had a very serious impact on my development, outside of just the scholarship money that helped, pay for education. I think the opportunity to network and meet other scholars and alumni, as well as supporters of Spencer in New York, that's been, I think, the most meaningful impact for me. So that's just a little bit about myself. And now I currently work at Markel out of our New York City office. Now, Lily, if you want to jump in and talk a little bit about yourself.
All right. Thanks, Alina. Also, thanks, Tandeka, for inviting Alina and I to speak today. So a little background about myself. So I'm originally from Michigan. However, I went to college at the University of Mississippi, Ole Miss. I also studied the risk management and insurance. In addition, did some banking, finance, and Chinese. My involvement with Spencer, I was a Spencer Scholar my senior year of college, and participated in a few of the events as well. Also attended the RIMS conference my senior year, attended the Spencer event there, and my favorite part probably with the Spencer is, as Spencer Scholar, they have the Spencer Mentorship Program. I connected monthly with my mentor. She was really great, providing great advice. And also, even after I graduated college, we still kept in touch. So that was really great. And after graduation, ended up at Markel. Absolutely loved it. Started in programs, and I guess I'll transition over to Alina and I started in the UTP program, which is Markel's underwriter trainee program. So it was a group of all, or for the most part, recent college grads or new to insurance. And it was like a 3-month program where we all worked on our separate teams. I was on my programs team. Alina was on her Access Umbrella team, and we worked and did different like modules. Of Alina, I'm based out of the Richmond, Virginia headquarter office. Alina and the rest of the group came down to Richmond a couple times, did some trainings, met the leadership, people who were down in Richmond. A few of us, we also went up to like New York or Chicago, spread throughout to the other offices and did other hands-on training with like the product line leaders at our company. Alina, you have anything to add on that?
Yeah, I think that, you start off being a student and then you graduate and your first job is definitely a little bit of a transition. And I think going through a training program was something that helped with that transition because essentially it was roughly 30 of us, like Lee mentioned, most recent grads, some that just early into the insurance industry. And so it kind of felt like we were away at sleepaway camp together when we were training at our headquarters because it was, again, all of us. It was a little bit like an extension of college a bit, getting to be surrounded by people that are your peers in age and experience. But then after that program, you get exposed to working on different teams where that's not necessarily the case, right? You have coworkers and leadership that are much older than you are, that are part of different generations, that might have kids the same age as you. And so I think something that's where really the transition takes place, is once you're exposed to working with, for either internally or externally with your clients, of people of different backgrounds and different age demographics. And I think there's maybe a little bit of different stereotypes related to every generation on kind of how they act and how they communicate. And I think that's a transition because in college, for the most part, you're surrounded by your peers. You learn from your peers, you have a professor, but for the most part, your network is like-minded individuals that are roughly at the same stage of their life. And then when you go into work, that changes a little bit. So I think Lily and I are going to talk about how we've adapted, what challenges we've faced being Gen Z in our industry, myself being in the New York office, and then Lily working at the corporate headquarters in Richmond. Lily, so if you want to talk about what it's like, going to work at headquarters where you're surrounded constantly by all the senior leaders of the company, what's that experience has been like, and what kind of challenges you've faced potentially and how you've overcome them.
Yeah, I'll share, a little bit my experience in the Richmond office. So, as Alina was saying, it was great to have that group that we started off with, everyone who was, fresh out of college or new to the industry. Just great, start off with all of them because when I did actually join my team, it was a great team to work with. However, one of my challenges was I am the youngest person on my team by several years, just, different, a lot less experience, I'll say, but, great to work with, but it's also, being in the Richmond office. Yes, we have a lot of leaders walking around, and our biggest office as well. And that's actually where we have, we have a lot of the teams spread throughout the country, but it's where we have a majority of our like IT, actuarial, claims team. And that's actually probably more in my role is, I'm gonna speak more about the internal, where Alina will talk later about the external communications. But working with internal, you got the different departments that you're working with. And also not only that is within the different departments, there's different levels of experience as well that we're working with. So one of the things for me is, being able, when I'm working with certain departments, some of them, are they used to not just the different departments, but the different levels, they're used to different levels of, some teams, prefer all the in-person communication, and some of them prefer everything, virtually online, and meetings, and any like some of them, they just want all emails or all instant messages, versus some of the leaders, it seems that they more prefer the in-person, or a direct phone call. And then it's in addition, it's really about being concise and direct in all of my messages, to get either my point across or like when they're, speaking to me. But it's also for me is being able to like ask, feel comfortable in asking them like for that clarification if there is, something that I'm not quite, understanding or just feel like I, need a little more information on. Um, and but I say one of the main things with working with, my peers or more experienced peers would be being mindful of my tones when I'm speaking with them, whether it's written communication or face to face. We all just came from college or, or just talking with all your friends, you do a lot of, you're joking around, it's really maintaining that professionalism. But it's, like sometimes written communication, you're speaking with your friends and you'll put in like emojis, GIFs, however, and it's, you can send an email to your coworker, and they might not understand, what you're really meaning. So it's really just being very clear about how you're communicating what you want to that person. And in general, also just communication is like I know like when I'm working with my manager, just keeping up to tabs on what I'm doing, like the status, so that they aren't coming to me and like, hey, I wanted this like last week or the update, the status. It's really just the best communication, constantly talking, constantly keeping things going so that both parties know where they're at. Um, so, and as for like also being headquarters, not only do we have several leaders here in the Richmond office, I mean, we have several leaders that come, from the New York office, from London, from all the other offices as well. And it's, sometimes all, connecting with them as well, but it's, you're representing your team as well. Plus, so it's really, being professional in front of them as well. And, you have clients, whoever else it is that's coming into the office. And not only, you don't want to be known as, we're all new so early in our career or about to step in, but, just maintaining the professionalism, because as you probably heard, it's a small industry. So you don't want to be known as unprofessional or just, just, yeah.
Absolutely. I wanted to, jump in here because I think the point you made about communication is so on point. And I see some comments in the chat too. They're like, so true. And feel free, again, for everyone that's here today, feel free to, like unmute yourselves and jump in, especially if you have questions. But, communication and like the tone of your emails is so crucial, for all of you that are about to start that journey, right, of transitioning from students to young working professionals. And you may think you're writing an email. For example, let's say you're looking for a status update, right, on a project. So you may think you're writing an email just saying, hi, I'm looking for a status update, right? And that's the tone in your mind that you're writing that email, but it may come across, especially if you're using like exclamation points, right? It may look like, hi, I want a status update, exclamation point. So the person on the other end may read it in a completely different tone than you intended, right? Like they don't know what your intentions are, right? Just wanted to point that out, that the tone that you're writing emails in your head may be different. So make sure when you're going through that process, like write your email, but then read it, reread it, look for ways that you could tweak it or edit it. It could, for example, with the same example that I brought up, it could instead look like, good morning, Lily. How are you doing today? Or, hope you're doing well today, Lily. When you have a moment, I would love to get a status update on this project. Thank you so much. Have a great weekend. There are ways that you can tweak and edit the wording within your email so that it does come across the way that you intended. But just wanted to point that out. Please continue.
Yes, no, thanks for, shedding more light on that, because I think that's really the most important is being mindful of the tones. Yeah, so, and it's really anything. There's some stuff, you'll send out and you'll think, Like, oh, I don't think, no questions, everyone else, I've talked to, they understand it, but, there could be someone out there who just, read it, some other way or, don't get, I mean, if there's, might think there's some humor in it and there isn't, like, it could be a serious thing, it could be, and vice versa.
Just to jump in on the comment with the explanation points, I think when I usually text friends or family, for me, exclamation points, it's excitement. So in an email, I remember one time I was writing one and I think someone was walking around and peeking in and they're like, why, are you sure you want to put exclamation points? It might come off as you're screaming at them. It's like, really? I'm just trying to be nice in the email. I think period is too strict for a sentence versus exclamation point. But it's interesting because again, different generations will see it differently. Our generation, we're more expressive, I think, with the emojis, with the tone and how we communicate when we write and speak. So I think a big point in our training program was always to pick up the phone and have a conversation, which everyone says our generation can't talk. All we can do is text people. We don't know how to pick up the phone. That's what you're going to hear a lot the minute you start working. I think everyone's going to start lecturing you on how to have a conversation on the phone. But I do have to say it is important. And I'm sure you've all had conversations on the phone. I think when you talk to your parents, that's how you can communicate with them mostly, or FaceTime. And you know that when you communicate with someone in person or on the phone, your tone of voice comes across in a much better way than when you're reading a message from someone you don't know and vice versa. And I think just to jump in on some external challenges that I've had working with clients, you're coming in, again, most of your communication is with your peers, and now you have to establish yourself as a professional with limited experience because you're only starting out. For me, I said I was an actuarial science major in college, and so all my internships were actuarial science, where you're a little bit siloed in with your team. You're communicating mostly with your team, not clients or brokers. It's mostly internal communication. And then when I started at Markel, in the underwriting role, you're very much forward facing. You're meeting new people, you're meeting brokers and clients who are much older and much more experienced than you are, and you have to prove yourself to them. So how do you establish relationships with people that have been in the industry for 20 plus years? And I think that might be a challenge for our generation coming in. You don't want to come off too overly confident because your rap sheet is only potentially your education for 4 years at your school and whatever little experience you have in internships and your current role. But I think what's important, what I've done, is seek out mentorship from people that are in the industry for longer periods of time. So if you're in a situation where you're dealing with team members or brokers or clients that are older than you and have more experience, that's a way to get to connect with them because they've been in the industry for a long period of time. They have their connections, they have their partnerships with different insurance markets. So how do you prove yourself so that you can bring in business, at least on the underwriting side? It's really just finding a middle ground or a talking ground of where you can connect. And a lot of times when you ask people to give you advice, they love talking about themselves, right? They love sharing kind of any wisdom that they've acquired, which, sometimes you might not necessarily agree with what they have to say, but I think that's how you form a connection, by being more vulnerable and in seeking their help. I don't know if anyone here has had any internship experience where you've either had internships with other students, your peers, or you've been on teams, again, where there has been age gaps and different experience levels, and how, you have to learn how to get comfortable with that and make sure you create an environment for yourself where you can ask questions as well. Just like Lily had mentioned, you want to make sure that even though you're not the most experienced person in the room and you're surrounded by people that have a much higher level of experience in the industry and knowledge base, you still have something to bring to the table, right? That's something you need to remind yourself. Our generation, Gen Z, we do bring something to the office, culture, and to the industry. I know for us, for instance, in our office, we have a Spirit of Style committee where we have different events and whether they're networking or educational, and it's really the younger generation in our office, those early career folks that are out of college, maybe 5 years, that are putting together this committee to have different events at the office to educate the entire office. And so because we have the time and we have the eagerness to just go out and seek different leadership for knowledge, I think in New York, we're not headquarters for Markel, but New York is a big hub for the insurance industry. And so a lot of leaders circulate through the office. A lot of big brokers and clients have meetings here. So you're constantly surrounded by all of this leadership and experience. And it can be intimidating at first, but you really need to just absorb and be a sponge and showcase what you can offer as well. And whether that is building into the culture of your company. I think thanks to our generation, there's a lot of different things in what people prioritize. You know, we're always told that all they do is want more vacation days, and a better work-life balance, but that's important, right? Work is important. You want to work for a company where you're truly enjoying what you're doing, but you also have your personal life and your family, and you have different things that you value as well. And so I think that our generation brings that different perspective of what else is important in your life and how you can bring that to your office culture and experience. So I think that's something that I have noticed, at least in our office. We've been hiring more interns and more underwriting trainees. And so with that, our office dynamic changes. We have our senior leaders, but we also have younger people in the office, the Gen Zers that do different things and bring different things to the table, whether that's organizing different events or community service or showing their support and engaging with different, communities. I think for us in New York, Markel's been very supportive. We've had a Spencer event where we've invited Spencer scholars and alumni and just tried to show our support to them, as well as the Gamma chapter, the students there, at St. John's University, just because of the proximity being in New York. But I think our organization and the industry in general is very supportive of the talent coming in, which is all of you. And so be mindful of that, you're wanted in this industry and experience will come. You just have to make sure that you're open to learning from different types of people at different levels and kind of showcasing and earning their respect as well. So just wanted to add that in. I don't know, Lily, if you wanted to add in anything else about working in Richmond or kind of what Richmond does, at least, or the Gen Z kind of influence at headquarters.
Yeah, no, I agree. You had mentioned, New York office is getting quite a few, new to the industry or out of our recent college grads to the office, which is really changing the dynamic in your office, happening in Richmond as well. We also have, you have your Spirit of the Style. We have a group called the Jitneys, similar concepts. A lot of, the younger crowd, with the different events, but open to everyone. Having a lot of senior leaders come in, and incite their wisdom on us, because that's one of the things is a lot of these more experienced leaders, as Alina had mentioned, everyone likes talking about themselves and has a lot of knowledge. And, it's great to hear from them now, because even I had mentioned we had a lot of people that come into our office just because it's headquarters for meetings, clients, and not just them speaking with other coworkers as well. for me, I like, setting some time like in person, walk around, or setting like meetings, impromptu or formal, to meet with some of these people one-on-one, learn from them more, and about their experiences, their roles, something that I wouldn't, normally learn if I'm, just sitting, at my desk or at home. You can even set stuff up virtually too with people that are in other offices or if they aren't in the office. But I mean, really about connecting with the other people. And then, Alina had mentioned that Markel had that Spencer event in the office a while back, but it's also like because Markel like just very supportive, of the community, connecting people. We've had in the past in the Richmond office, I'm not sure if we've had in any of our other offices as well, as like stuff outside of the normal happy hours where you or your meetings where you'd connect with other people, but we've done like we have based on like our founder, our Sam Markel Days of Service, or there's been like the IICF Week of Giving. They're just like philanthropy event, and we partnered with some of, our brokers, carriers. We've had some of our summer interns also. So it's really, good experience for everyone across the table, getting to connect, whether it's some senior leaders participate, or some of the newer people to the organization as well, just really getting to connect and learn outside of the office setting as well. So, Alina, did you have anything?
Yeah, I mean, I wanted to know if anyone had any kind of questions or comments based on your own experiences. I think the only other thing we can kind of add is advice to all of you. I mean, for me, Spencer community is very important. I try to stay engaged as an alumni and a past scholar any way that I can to support at least the scholars in New York City, just because they're close by. But that extends to anyone anywhere else. We can always connect and chat in any way that I can show support. I'd be happy to do so, just because Spencer had a big impact on me and exposure that I've received in New York to attend different conferences, different events, be a speaker at different panels. And I really have Spencer to thank for that. And I think just studying insurance at St. John's University, and I think basically everyone that introduced themselves is studying risk management as well. So keep that in mind coming into the industry. A lot of the people that you're going to be working for probably didn't study insurance or risk management or actuarial science. Their knowledge is based on experience. You have a foundational knowledge, and that's very important as well, because anything else you'll pick up on the job just from being in the office, being invited to meetings, overhearing different conversations, and really just the work that you do day to day. But I think all of you being Spencer scholars, you were selected for a reason. And I think that's because, you're not only smart individuals, but you're eager to be the next leaders of our industry. And so I think once you graduate, don't lose that. Make sure that you continue to advocate for yourself and network internally and externally, seek out opportunities. And I'm sure if Spencer can help support that in any way, they would with their connections and the board and the companies that support them as well. So I think make sure to advocate for yourself, put yourself in rooms, challenge yourself. I think, a lot of the times everyone says Gen Z is lazy. And I think Gen Z is hardworking. I think Gen Z wants to be, at least in my perspective of being in this generation, is that we like to be challenged. The minute you stop challenging us and give us mundane tasks of doing the same thing over and over again, we'll get bored and we won't be okay with that. We'll seek something else out, and maybe we'll jump to another company or a different division or a different team just because we want to learn something new and keep growing. I think this generation's very ambitious and will potentially surpass and become leaders much quicker than previously. And that's also because of the generational gap which once you join the industry, you'll experience as well. I think you'll join and then you'll start seeing a lot of the leadership retiring and then new leaders coming in. And so, you know, you're going to be up to bat much quicker, I think, than in years before. So be prepared for that. But I do see that there are some raised hands. So maybe we'll jump into some questions.
Yeah, Jasmine's up first and then Hassan. Go for it.
Okay. Thank you, Tandika. Hi, Lena. Hi, Lily. Thank you so much for your time and for sharing your experience with us. I found how you talked about communication in the workplace very interesting because it's been something that also, dealt with. So my question is, I remember, Lena, in the first section, you talked about how you had some training before starting the role. I just want to find out, did you find yourself drawing from that training? How did that help you, especially with your transition period? If you could touch on that a little bit, please.
Yeah, so I think one of the recommendations that I had when I was a senior or even a junior at St. John's was to really try to get my first job out of college to be in some sort of training program. And what that means is you're not just starting out as an entry-level worker, but you're put into a cohort of other people that have potentially just graduated or again in your same level of experience coming into the company. And the training that Lily and I received in our training program at Markel was really an accelerated 3-month program where we received overall training on Markel, different divisions, different leadership, different products, different types of insurance coverages that our company provides, how different departments interact. And it was really an exposure to the overall, what is Markel? Not just statistics and facts, but exposure to leadership, exposure to different cultures at different offices. We got to travel, I think, out of the 3 months, probably a month of travel to different offices. 1 week we were in Richmond, another week people came to New York, Chicago, Texas, different offices, depending on where their respective leadership was sitting. But overall, we got kind of an overview introduction to who Markel is and our place in the insurance industry and our history. And then after that, were put back into our offices and we got trained in our specific product lines. So for me, that was umbrella and excess casualty. So then I had training in our office, and I could say, studying 4 years of insurance in college, it is different. It's helpful because you have a foundational understanding of, who an underwriter is, broker, the relationship there, why you need insurance, why people purchase insurance, and kind of the different dynamics of reinsurance, captives, and all, the different just kind of concepts, I think, in the industry. And then once you actually start working and you get training from your team, that becomes more of, I think, a different types of experience of your day-to-day on how what your role is and how you can contribute to your company and the industry. So it's a little bit different, but it was definitely very helpful because what you learn is, at least on the underwriting side, right? You're reviewing risks every day, risks that are submitted to you by your broker partners, and you're ultimately selecting based on the pricing, the capacity, the limit that you want to provide, whether or not you think a risk is good or bad, which I think in college that prepares you of, risk controls and risk management and ERM, and you learn different concepts. But I think on the day-to-day job, it's a little bit different because you have authority to really determine what risk your company is going to absorb for a certain price, essentially. And so that's something that you pick up on the job, and having a training dedicated to that helps you for sure. So whether or not you're interested in being an actuary or an underwriter or a broker, going through some sort of training program when you start is very helpful for the knowledge, but also for the exposure to leadership. So you're not just siloed to your one team, but you get to see different people in different divisions across the company. I don't know if that answered your question, but
did. It did a lot. Thank you so much.
Perfect. Hassan, how about you? What's your question?
I got too many now that she shared that.
Let's start with the first one. What's the first question?
Well, I will say, um, so I do appreciate Alita and Lily sharing their Markel experience. I do want to ask because we're learning risk every day here, and especially her being an alumni of my school, I guess I get to, see someone in the future that, I would like to kind of be an expert at risk. Um, so one thing is, you spoke about your underwriting experience over there, but after graduating, how does it feel? Like, you know, do you feel like you're learning something new every day now that you're at Markel? And do you feel like you get the same support that you had received as a student? Because students, they kind of, especially being part of Spencer, you're being greatly supported within your professional and development and everything. But how does it feel now that you're on the other side? Uh, and I'm definitely interested in hearing your perspective on that.
Yeah, that's a great question. Um, I'll start and then Lily, if you want to jump in as
Okay.
well. Um, I think as a student, especially at St. John's University, not to be biased, I mean that's the where I graduated, so I can definitely speak more on the support there. I'm sure all your programs that everyone else is a part of are great too. But yeah, St. John's does offer a lot of exposure and support to by the industry and for the students. I think on the other side of it now, there are still people out there, both at Markel and at other companies, that are really interested in uplifting the next generation of talent. And you need to make sure you find those people and put yourself in a room with those individuals because they are there. And those are the individuals that normally make comments of, well, she's going to have my job in 10 years. I'm going to have to report to her or to him, right? They're confident in themselves, but they're also aware that we have something to offer and they want to support us so that we can grow into being the next leaders of the industry. I think there is a lot of support. There's a lot of different organizations. I mean, in New York City, there's RIMS, Young Risk Professionals, YRP. That's a big organization that's dedicated to really keeping together the young talent in our industry. That's graduating from college up to 35 years old, that kind of pool of people that are still learning, a couple of years in the industry, keeping us together and getting mentorship from more seasoned professionals as well. I think there is support in our industry. I don't think it's necessarily the same. You can compare it to being a student. Enjoy your time as a student. I think there's a lot of advocates like Spencer and RIMS for students. And so keep them as connections as well. I mean, that's what I try to do too. And so you'll find people in the industry, and especially I think alumni like to give back as well and support students from their universities just because they've been in their shoes and they have that experience. I think I'm fortunate for the community, for St. John's alumni, we're very close. I think our year and a couple of years out, we all keep in touch. Everyone's at different companies, at different sides of the industry. And it's great to have people in your network like that because they'll keep an eye open for opportunities for you and vice versa once they're looking to make a change. And you kind of know what it's like to work at different companies just by having conversations and keeping in touch with them as well. So I think just continue to put yourself and stay involved in organizations that offer that type of support because they are out there, especially if you don't feel like you're going to get that support by your team. or where you're working. But I'm sure, you know, every company has that. You just have to seek it out.
Fantastic. Any thoughts or comments, Lily? And then we're going to go to Kudakwashe for our final question.
Okay, yeah, and also, you know, I went to Ole Miss, studied the insurance there, felt very supported by the staff and faculty there. But, you know, and when I moved over to Markel, started my first job, I felt just as much support when I started the new role, like from my manager, my team. And then it's even, you know, looking beyond there, you know, Alina had mentioned, you know, finding that mentor, you know, whether it's internal, external, you know, finding more than one, putting yourself in that room of, you know, your biggest supporters. In addition, you know, back again, you know, the alumni of your school, your classmates. I mean, you're going to end up working with several of your classmates, whether, you know, they're at the same company as you, or, you know, they're more on your client side or somewhere in the mix. So it's really, you know, getting all that support, but it's also like leaning back on Alina and I, we did that training program together, you know, getting the support from that group as well. So that's been really great. So I do think, you know, a very supportive industry.
Fantastic. Kuda, please ask
Thanks.
your question.
No, thank you for the opportunity. And also thank you all for sharing your great thoughts. I actually liked especially what Lily said about communication and knowing well how to communicate, you know, as Gen Zs to different people at the company. And I was actually thinking that next summer I'll be working at an internship. And I guess this question I can ask you, Lily, is what's one thing that you might, you know, advise me to take away as I'm going into the internship that I should do in terms of like conducting myself for the company so that I'll position myself for to get like a full-time role after I graduate.
Yeah. Yeah, congrats on, you know, internship. But also, you know, like one of the biggest things is like be a sponge at your internship, you know. You're young, you're like learning, learn everything there is about this company. Take advantage of it. Ask as many questions. I know they're like you know, no question is, you know, a dumb question, just ask the question. And then it's also, you know, get to know, you know, like walk around, get to know, you know, whoever else is in the office, learn about other roles as well. You know, be curious. Have that, you know, that's, you know, when we're assessing the risk, you know, there's a lot going on these accounts that we're reviewing. Be curious, ask those questions. Why? So I think that's really my big advice to you. And then also seeing, you know, maybe finding a mentor as well at the internship. I don't know, like if the structure, if they even have a mentor already for you, you know, be able to have conversation with them as well.
Thank you.
You have anything to add in?
No, I think you covered it. Really just be curious, ask questions as an intern. That's the best time to do so, right? Because if you show that you're engaged and you're interested in learning more, that's what's going to make them want to keep you on because you're not afraid to be curious and potentially even challenge and ask, well, why do you do it this way? You know, that's something that not everyone asks. Sometimes you're given an order of, here's the work you need to do it this way, and you just follow it. But not everyone takes this next step of asking, well, why do you do it this way? Because you never know, maybe you can bring a better solution or a better way of doing things to the table, but you won't know unless you ask why. So I think asking questions and being curious, that's will set you apart as an intern.
Fantastic. Well, these were amazing questions. So thank you guys for taking the time and for being brave enough to raise your hands and ask these questions. Lily, Alina, thank you again for hanging out with us for an hour and just sharing your knowledge and your wisdom. For everyone that's in the session today, I did put multiple links in the chat box, so definitely take a moment to just scroll through. Several people in today's session also put their personal LinkedIn URLs within the chat box. So make sure you're scrolling through that and just take a moment to connect with everyone who's in the virtual room today. So as you are aware, we host these sessions on a monthly basis throughout the spring semester. So our next session is going to be on Thursday, May 16th from 1 to 2 Eastern time. Our presenting company is going to be Insurica, and we're going to learn all about the loss control sector of our industry and what role it plays in the overall insurance ecosystem. So again, Lily and Alina, if everyone would just join me in a round of applause and thank yous to them for sharing their knowledge and spending time with us. We truly appreciate it. We're so proud of you as Spencer Scholars, as alumni. We're so proud of both of you for all that you have accomplished, and we look forward to continuing to support you throughout your careers. So yeah, with that, keep in touch, and we will see everyone next month. Have a good one.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.